Welcome back to One Conversation, where one conversation can change your life. My name is JC Macias, and here with me is my amazing co host, Lisa Piazza. So, I'm super excited about today's episode. We will be discussing self love and the five love languages. So, many people think of self love as a day out shopping or a day of just binge watching Netflix, even though I'm totally okay with that. Love binge
Same,
watching.
same.
But it's important to think of self love on a deeper level because the reality is that self love includes having a higher regard for your own well being. So, today's episode is a great way to embrace Mental Health Awareness Month, which is this month, the month of May.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this conversation as well. It's really such an important conversation to have with everyone, and especially here in May, being Mental Health Awareness Month, kind of a perfect way to marry the things that we talk about with empowerment, right? And also just overall mental health and well being. So, self love includes not only how we treat ourselves, but it's also kind of directed towards our thoughts and our feelings about ourselves as well. So, not only just the actions that we take, but really that inner work that we do with ourselves as well. And so, we know that this is definitely a journey when it comes to self love. We are constantly working on self love. Kind of like a little plant, right? We always have to be nurturing ourselves. We have to be watering it and tending to it for this to grow.
Absolutely. And this is a topic that is intertwined, right, with many of the other topics we have done in the past. I'm
Hmm.
sure this is not the first time you have heard us say or state self love, but self love is pretty much the foundation, right, that helps us set boundaries, that
Right.
helps us be confident when needing to be assertive. That also helps us practice that self care. And most important, it's the foundation that helps us build healthy relationships, which is why
Hmm.
we're discussing this today. It's the unconditional support, self care, and compassion you give yourself that can really convert and turn into great self esteem, happiness, total balance, and well being.
And I really like to because it does speak so much to kind of the self care that we do with ourselves. And
Mhm.
I think it's so just ironic. And I love that our first episode, we started with self care, right? Before we got into any of the topics we speak about, we started there because self care and the way we treat ourselves ultimately does really affect obviously the relationships we have with others. And so yeah, this is something so important. So we're really excited to kind of dive in a little bit deeper. Although like JC said, we have mentioned self-love, and a lot of these things we're going to discuss, we've probably brought them up several times, but we're really excited to kind of dive in, just give a bigger picture to all of this. And so how we're going to start, we wanted to give some examples of just what self love can really look like, kind of in real time in our day to day lives. And so, to start off this little list, some of the things that we can see almost a manifestation of self love. First and foremost, saying positive things to yourself. We talked about this a lot. We had a whole episode with our relationship with ourselves. We know that we're kind of our own worst critics, right? So, just making sure we take time to be positive with ourselves or maybe catching ourselves if we're not being so positive. The next thing on the list is forgiving yourself when you mess up. So maybe not spending so much time in judgment or shame or just dwelling on the fact that maybe we made a mistake, right? Or something happened that we weren't proud of. Being able to forgive yourself and move on from that. Meeting your own needs is a huge representation of self love, right? Getting what you need, being assertive, and that kind of speaks a lot to that as well, right? And also to this next bullet point, not letting others take advantage of or abuse you. And so, yeah, definitely being assertive is a part of that as well, right? If you're being assertive, you are getting your needs met. And you're also kind of putting out what is respectful to you, what is disrespectful, and making sure that you're maintaining essentially your boundaries in those relationships. So, not letting anyone else, yeah, kind of do that harm, right? Then we have prioritizing your health and well-being, making sure that, you do take time for yourself, that you obviously come first. Spending time around people who support you and build you up and avoiding people who don't. I'll tell you what, that is, I think, my favorite one, something that I uphold really strongly, is surrounding, especially at the age that I'm at, right? And this has taken me a long time. I'm in my 30s. I didn't always practice this and I'm not perfect at it, but really making sure the people in my life are the best, most loving fits for me, right? That serve my life in a positive way, and I do so for theirs. And if there's toxic energy or people that, we are just not good together and nothing good for either of us comes out of this relationship, then yeah, maybe reevaluating that, right? Or choosing to not spend that time. And then we also have asking for help. I think that's a really big one as well. That really looks like self love, right? Because asking for help, I think, is really challenging for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And I think the courage, the courageousness of being able to say that, listen, this is maybe above me, but also that I care about myself enough to go above and beyond, right? Maybe have that awkward conversation or reach out, even if it was uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And, Lisa, as always, I definitely agree with spending time around people who support you and build you up. I think
Yes.
it's something that I have also learned that's so critical and important. And I just want to say, probably just started practicing this like maybe 4 or 5 years now. And my life has changed drastically, right? When you start, surrounding yourself around people that support you, that are wanting to become better, right? And grow with you, it's just such a different energy, such a
Mm-hmm.
different environment. So, love that you highlighted that. Some other examples of self love can be, something like letting go of grudges or anger that holds you back, right? Making sure that you are taking good care of yourself emotionally, right? And you're kind of feeling or just feeling emotions that are healthier for you opposed to something that is, upsetting you or not letting you kind of move forward. Also, recognizing your strengths. I think it's so important to do this. I tell myself all the time, like, I need to give myself enough props, right? And sometimes we hear others, recognize our strengths, or we want others to recognize our strengths. But really, it's so important for us to be able to recognize our own strengths, right? Also valuing your feelings. And so I think this is something that's also very important and critical, right? I think it's like Brianna mentioned in one of our past episodes, feelings are nor they're not right nor wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so important for you to know that. And if you're feeling sad or you're feeling upset or you're feeling, you know, um, disappointed, whatever you're feeling at that time, it's so important to validate that, right? And to value that and allow yourself to kind of feel that in that moment. Also, making healthy choices most of the time, right? And so no one's perfect. We will all at times take a step back or even two, right? But it's so important that we continue to try to make healthy choices for ourselves, right? Healthy decisions for ourselves. Because ultimately, when it comes to self love, that's really what you're trying to achieve, right? You're trying to be your best self. And so we need to be able to do that by being healthy. Also, living in line with your values. And oh my gosh, is this something that I
Mm-hmm.
have really learned that it can affect your self love in not a positive way if
Yeah.
you do not really, align with your values. So if
Mm-hmm.
it can be something as simple as you making a mistake, right? And again, we all make mistakes. There's, it's not for us to have to dwell on it. But if you feel like you don't kind of recenter and align with your values and you continue down that road, it really can affect who you are as a person, feeling like you are not, aligning with your values. You're not doing or believing in what you typically believe in, right? Or doing what you feel like is right. So I think it's something that's so critical and so important to do. And again, we all make mistakes. That's totally okay, but it's so important for you to, live in line with your values. Also, pursuing your interests and goals, right? I think this is something also that can be very difficult to do. And for me, it was a big sign that I was not practicing self love or self care when I am feeling like I cannot pursue my interests and goals or just not having the energy to do so. And so, when you're practicing self love, it's so critical that, that the sky is the limit, that you go after whatever interest you have or whatever goal, right? And at times, maybe the goal is something that you can't just complete or do within the next few months, right? Maybe it's the next few years, but it's a work in progress, and it's so important for
Mm-hmm.
you to feel like you can pursue it. And then I think challenging yourself is also a really big example of self love. I think it's so important for you to know, that one, again, you're able to do anything you set your mind to. but two, it's so important for you to push yourself, right? And challenge
Mm-hmm.
yourself and kind of step outside the box. Sometimes we don't do that. And I don't know if you guys are just like me, where, maybe I was too scared to challenge myself in that moment, right? Or for whatever reason, I made an excuse on why I did not want to. Maybe I was not comfortable enough, or maybe I was not feeling confident enough. But then it's in my mind, later on, I'm just like, why did I not challenge myself? Why did I not do that? Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it was something that was scary. And this is kind of like a very simple example. But I am like afraid of heights, like just completely terrified of heights. I'm usually that person that's screaming their head off on roller coasters, right? While like 6 year olds are like laughing and having a blast, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm literally that person that people laugh at because I'm like crying on the roller
Oh
coaster.
no.
But I push myself to do that. I challenge myself. And I remember a few years back when we went to Six Flags, I was so terrified of that Superman ride that I decided not to do it. I
Oh
was like, you
yeah.
know what? I know this is a challenge and I know I don't want to be so scared of heights that I can't like, enjoy an experience with my partner. But I was like, I can't. I'm not feeling it today. I decided not to do it. It bothered me for months. Like I should have done it. It looked so
Oh.
fun. So when I had the opportunity to do a zip lining challenge and I did not want to do it, I just kept reminding myself, remember that time that you were not up for that challenge and it bothered you for months. That's all you kept thinking. Like, I should have done it. Once I was up there, and done, I would have been proud of myself for doing it. And so it's just a reminder that sometimes it can be a very small challenge, but it's so important to do it, to step outside your comfort zone. And it kind of makes you gain this like sense of confidence, right? Like, I did
Oh
that. Like,
yeah.
it was hard, but I did that. And I think that's something that's so important. So, definitely a great example of self love as well. Also, giving yourself healthy treats, right? Being able to treat yourself in a healthy way is super critical and important. Accepting your imperfections. So, just like it's so important to recognize your strengths, it's so important for you to accept your imperfections and just to
Mm-hmm.
know that no one is perfect. We all have an imperfection. It's what makes us who we are. And so, it's okay to accept it and recognize that, right? And if it's something that really is affecting you in a negative way, then what best way to accept it and, kind of be accountable for it and figure out a way that you can, improve in that area, right? If that's something that really bothers you. But again, just a reminder that no one is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Also, setting realistic expectations. And so this is a really big one. And I mean really big one because this is the big one for myself.
Yeah.
Setting realistic expectations is something that's so important. Of course, sometimes we can be very optimistic and we're super excited and we are go-getters and we're motivated and we're like, I can do this. And I think that's awesome. Of course, don't limit yourself, but set something that's realistic, right? Set yourself up for success. Set something up that you truly know that you're able to plan out and do, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
last thing you want to do is set an unrealistic expectation and kind of get disappointed by maybe not completing that, or disappointed because you weren't able to meet that, or maybe you're highly stressed because you're like, God, this is such an unrealistic expectation that now I'm so stressed, or I'm experiencing lack of sleep because I'm trying to complete it. So it's just so important to be realistic, and if it's hard for you to do that, set a time frame or timeline for yourself, set a plan to see if that's something that you could do. Also noticing your progress and effort. And I will just say this is something that is also very important that I often, definitely practice. I think at times, we have specific expectations for ourselves, right? Or a specific, plan of what we want to do or where we want to be, in 5 years or 2 years or a year, right? Or maybe you're going through something difficult and you're like, hey, I'm really wanting to get better, right? I'm really wanting to improve. But it's so important to know that it takes steps, right? It takes baby steps. And every baby step counts, right? And needs to be validated. So just know that maybe you're not where you want to be in a year or 2 years or 10 years, whatever that looks like, right? But really like recognize and validate and appreciate the progress that you have made, the effort that you have made, because regardless of how small it is, it's a change that you've created, right? And change is big and really needs to be highlighted. So just make sure that you are noticing that progress and that effort and you're highlighting it for yourself.
Absolutely. And anytime we do something that is worthy of being celebrated, and I think that could be something so small that's worthy of being celebrated, we should really be the ones to kind of show up first, right? And
Hmm.
celebrate those successes. But I think, a lot of those last bullet points is interesting because I think, I always speak to this. I think we're in a culture that doesn't really promote a whole lot of that, right? And so it could be really hard. I mean, this is an instant gratification culture, right? If you want something, I'm on Amazon, it shows up the next day. If I want validation, I go online, I post something instantly, boom, 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 there's likes, there's things coming in. And so the idea of like working towards a goal that's long term and isn't immediately going to give results, right? I think for a lot of people, especially that are really caught up within this culture, that could be really hard, right? So accepting imperfections when all we are seeing is filtered perfection, setting realistic expectations when we see really unrealistic images and unrealistic versions of who people are and what they're doing with their lives, right? And so I think it's really important that we are really mindful of that and that we do take a step back, right? And we are able to celebrate. And even though, maybe I built something one time and it didn't work, well, yeah, it might take you a million more times to build, right? There might be like 30 different prototypes before you get at the one that's going to work, right? But
Hmm.
it's celebrating that and being vulnerable with yourself enough in the progress or the process that you can be there, that it's okay if it's not instant success, it's okay if it's not overnight, right? And that if it's challenging, that you're there to kind of provide that support for yourself, right? And kind of push yourself even when it's challenging. And so, yeah, I really love that we kind of started really introducing all of those things because, again, I think it's really important conversations and just reminders kind of for everyone out there, as simple as a lot of that stuff can be. I know for me, it's not always easy, right? And we're here kind of speaking on these things, but it's not always easy for me to notice progress and effort. It's not always easy for me to not be super self critical, right? And be maybe unrealistic with my expectations I put out. So it really is, it's such great reminders to kind of just have in the back of our heads, right? In our day to day lives, because the better we are with loving ourselves, the better we're going to be at every kind of aspect of our lives, right? And so, moving out of that, we also introduced in a previous episode, we chatted about the 5 love languages in a previous episode. So, of course, in that episode, we were talking about the 5 love languages when it comes to intimate partner relationships. But JC has since found there are love language kind of diagrams for every type of relationship. So, not just
Hmm.
intimate partner relationships, but there's the love languages of parenting. But we have the 5 languages of self love that, of course, I mean, really beautifully kind of capture everything that we're talking about here today. And so, we are going to go over these 5 self love languages. So, the first self love language, it's a lot to say, is words of affirmation, or essentially thinking self love, right? And I know we've chatted about this even in the beginning of this episode and our prior episodes, but, making sure that we are being kind to ourselves. We've gone off about affirmations in this room. I think, especially Brianna and JC and I, we are all really big just advocates of using positive affirmations. We know this is something that is really impactful, right? The more that we hear things, the more that we will intake what we're hearing. And so being positive to ourselves, maybe speaking more kindly to ourselves. Maybe we notice that we are quick to kind of really attack ourselves if we do something wrong or if something doesn't go right or wasn't the way that we planned. And so maybe in that moment, just kind of noticing how we're speaking to ourselves and changing that dialogue a little bit, right? I'm not so stupid. I'm not an idiot. I didn't, just screw this up because of course I did. It's like, well, maybe it just didn't work out this time. And okay, you know what? It didn't work out, but that's fine, right? And just changing that dialogue. So using affirmations, mantras, or even doing something like maybe you're journaling. Maybe you had a really good day. You did something you're really proud of. You were like, wow, this was super impressive. I impressed myself today. So maybe writing those things down, right? Kind of journaling to your strengths, making that a process for yourself. That way, it's kind of a natural go to, right? That every time that you do something that you're proud of or you feel like is a strength, it's almost like in your head already that you're going to capture that, right? And you're going to remember that. So you can refer back to that later. And let's say, yeah, you're having a moment later, you don't feel so great about yourself. Maybe going through and reading, like, well, I kicked butt at this and I felt super proud over here, right?
Hmm.
Can kind of give you that pick me up. The second love language for self love is acts of service. So, kind of, it says do self love, and this is for yourself. So, maybe this is taking time to meal prep or grocery shop. That way, you have good or delicious or healthy meals kind of at your disposal. So, you're taking care of your body in that way and nourishing yourself. Maybe it's cleaning your space. That way, when you get home, you have a very, very stress free environment where you can really unwind and just relax and treat yourself in that way, right? Where you could sit down and think, I don't have to get up and clean or do anything else. Maybe it's kind of giving yourself a spa day, right? Doing some of that self grooming. So maybe it's a face mask, or maybe it's kind of taking time, especially right now. I know there's not a lot of opportunity. We're getting there with COVID, but still, there's
Hmm.
not a lot of opportunity to kind of dress up and go out. But maybe it's just taking time to kind of putting an outfit together for yourself, even if it's doing something small like going to the store, just to kind of put yourself together, right? Maybe make you feel a little bit more confident.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are two of my favorites for sure. And so we do, like Lisa mentioned, we do have five self love languages. And so one of the other self love languages is receiving gifts, right? And so absorb self love. And so this could look differently, right? And I know when we think about gifts, something, luxurious may come to mind, but it's actually, it
Hmm.
could be something so inexpensive, right? It can be something so small as well. It could be something like you gifting yourself an experience, maybe an experience to go travel somewhere that you've been wanting to travel to. Maybe an example of that is investing in yourself, like taking maybe a class or an online course that you
Mm.
typically wouldn't take because you're like, oh, but, that's expensive, or I don't want to spend that much money. But you're like, hey, I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm trying to practice self love, and this is something that's going to make me feel better, right? And
Yeah.
so that's also an example of you being able to do this through receiving gifts. And then one of the other self love language is quality time, right? And so when we talk about quality time, it really means to be present, right? Doing something that focuses on you, that allows you to focus on being present, right? And so it could be something that just brings you um, meaningfulness, right? It could be something like a daily mindfulness meditation. Maybe it's a deep breathing meditation. Maybe it's sleep, right? Where it really allows you to be in
Hmm.
that moment and detach from everything else, right? Which is something that's not just so important for you to be able to do, like physically, but it's also something that could really affect you emotionally if you have a lack of that, right? And maybe it's exercising, right? Maybe it's you going outside and being able to go on a hike and really be present in what you're doing, and really allows you to detach from all these thoughts running through your mind, right? Or maybe, something that's stressing you out that's going to happen, 2 months from now. So, doing anything that really allows you to spend that quality time with yourself and really allows you to be present, right, is a great way to practice this type of self love, which is quality time. And then our last self love language is physical touch, right? And which is, a feel type of self love. And, obviously, when we think about physical touch when it comes to an intimate, relationship or just any other relationship with somebody else, it's a little bit easier to think of, right? Examples of
Hmm.
how you can do that because you're like, oh, I can hug them, or, I can hold their hand, or I can just literally put my hand over their shoulder, right?
Hmm.
To let them know that I'm here. But when it comes to physical touch and feeling that kind of like self love, it could be something like I just mentioned, exercising, right? Maybe it's a massage, right? That's really allowing you to like de stress, right? And allows your muscles to maybe relax. Maybe it's taking a bath, right? Because taking a bath can really release some of that stress and relax your muscles as well. Maybe
Yeah.
it's skincare, right? Again, just kind of that touch and maybe allowing, a physical part of you to become healthier, right? Or stronger.
Or even maybe like fuzzy clothes, right? Some like really comfy clothes, something like that. I know that's important for me is like my big comfy woolly socks when it's cold outside or a big comfy sweater, right? Kind of that feeling of that coziness on your body. I know that's my favorite one, so I had to plug that one in.
No, absolutely. And I was one of the other examples that I had was like a weighted blanket, right?
Hmm.
And so that's something that can also kind of allow some of that pressure that can really help somebody feel at ease, right? And that's something that is really big for me and my son, right? Where that's something that really allows me to kind of get that touch and pressure that I need to just relax, right? Or if you're feeling anxious, maybe it's your favorite PJs, right? That's maybe super soft and allows you to feel relaxed or really kind of allows you to start relaxing because that's big for me. I have to have a specific material to be able to go to sleep comfortably at night. And so I'm big on PJs and making sure that, the material that PJs made out of is going to be something that's going to, not make my body feel tight or
Hmm.
like I'm suffocating or just
Yeah.
itchy, like I
Or
need to
too
feel like
hot. Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
So something as simple as that, or maybe it's having a really comfortable comforter or pillow right on your bed that kind of again kind of really allows your body to feel that touch that's going to feel relaxing, right?
Hmm.
And so these are just some simple examples, but everyone's different, right? And so find what helps you feel that physical touch if this is your love language, right? If this is a love language that you need. And so we just went over 5 different love languages, and every love language is different for every single person, right?
Hmm.
Like I mentioned, for me, the words of affirmations and act of service is what's big for me, right? What I need when it comes to my self love relationship. But maybe for Lisa, it's receiving gifts or quality time, which I don't think receiving gifts may be one of yours, Lisa. But just
Yeah.
just
I'm
throwing it
like,
out
you know
there,
me well. You know
right?
me pretty well. I
Yeah.
think for me, honestly, I'm kind of looking, I feel like for me, a big one is quality time. I'm single and I have been living by myself for a little bit. And I really, my self work I've been doing over the last year, it's been a lot of spending really meaningful quality time with myself, not just kind of hanging out too, right? Because we all need those things. And let me just kind of backtrack and say, because, we spoke about like making healthy choices. And of course, yeah, like we should always have that balance and have overview making healthy choices for ourselves too, right? But does some days maybe loving yourself look like ordering that pizza? Yes, it does, boo boo. Yes, it does. So we're not saying, like kind of 86 those things out of your life. Of course, we're kind of prioritizing healthy things because obviously, right, we want everyone to be the best versions of themselves. But yeah, so I think honestly for me it'd be quality time. But the physical touch also for me too. I do love. I have like two. I actually have this little massage thing. It's so funny. It plugs in and you can put it behind your head, and it's like little shiatsu massagers for your neck. And I actually used that last night, and I was sitting there and it was so funny. I mean, because it was like I bought it at TJ Maxx for $10. I have this thing, but I honestly was like, I feel like I'm at a spa right now. Like I felt like I was like treating myself, just doing this little, spending 10 minutes to let this little thing just massage my neck for me, right? So, yeah, I think those are mine. But it's interesting because I think in a way it's like they all speak to me. I
Yes.
feel like everyone, right? Like we could benefit from having all these 5 types of love languages.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm really curious, right? Because I think there's definitely ones that speak to us more than others. So yeah, listeners out there, if you want to kind of let us know, right, feel free to write us in. We love the involvement of our audience. So let us know what your love languages are if you want to chat about that. If there's anything we didn't cover today, our email, just to share it out, if anyone wanted to write in about that or anything else we've discussed in this or other episodes, our email is outreach@liveviolencefree.org. So, yeah, definitely let us know what your love languages are.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you. So, I would also love to just suggest for you to start today by identifying one loving thing you could do for yourself, right? And kind of really put into practice what we talked about, especially because, like I mentioned, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And so, what that could look like is it could be a supportive thought or action, right? It could be something as simple as that. So, just make sure that you write down what you're going to do and when you'll do it, right? So kind of set that plan like I mentioned earlier. And the reason why I want you to write it down is because writing it down really increases that accountability, right? To kind of make sure that you follow through with it, especially when you set a plan,
Hmm.
right? Especially if you're like setting a deadline for yourself or a time frame, or you're like, hey, let me kind of schedule this in my schedule. Because if you're like me, a crazy person that's always running around, you sometimes have to
Yep.
schedule simple things like that, right? You have to
Yeah.
simple, it could be you just going on a hike and you're like, hey, let me see where I have that hour opening. So really go ahead and take that time to create a plan of when you can practice something that you really love or that you really enjoy doing, something that will kind of allow you to practice that self-love for yourself. And then make sure that you write it down and you make a plan around that. And we really, for us, we really just want to make sure that everyone is taking care of themselves. Because if you're not taking care of yourself and loving yourself, we can't love anybody else, right? We can't take care of anyone else. And so we're our best selves when we take care of ourselves.
Yeah, it's like we could love, but it's not going to be from our whole heart, right? Because our whole heart's not going to be there even enough for us at that point, right? We're not giving enough to ourselves to have that full wholeheartedness, right, for our own relationship. So, yeah, of course, then you won't be as wholehearted in those other ones. So, it's so important. We really encourage everyone, and I'm a big believer in writing stuff down. I'll just quickly mention I started like a workout challenge for 2 weeks. It's all online, so it's so easy to just go and look what workouts I do every single day. But I wrote it down like old school on a piece of paper, and that has sincerely helped me so much more because every day it's not on my phone, it's like on my coffee table and it's kind of staring right at me. So something about writing it down, it really does kind of add that accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in speaking to us getting into this practice every day, maybe walking away today, recognizing a love language or recognizing something we can do for ourselves, right? To give ourselves that self love. JC found this wonderful self love meditation that we're going to close out with today. So, hey, maybe this can be your first thing that you do, right? Maybe kind of today's checklist for taking some, part in self love. Done, right? You've done that with this meditation. And so we encourage all listeners out there to just get yourself into a comfortable seated position, somewhere you can fully relax your body. And I want you to start taking really nice cleansing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Nice slow breath in and out. Continue with the slow, steady breathing. Bring all of your awareness to the position of your body. I want you to really feel and take account of your body right now. Is there any stress? Any areas you need to relax? Your jaw, shoulders, your legs? Feel your breath. Enjoy the feeling of lightness. Enjoy the feeling that may accompany your breathing. Take a deeper breath. Find a comfort zone in your mind and gently move into that place, allowing all the worries of the world around you to gently just fall away. Let these worries just fall off the left side of your body and now the right side of your body. Your whole energy is you, vibrating and showing into a beautiful light and state of comfort. Imagine you are protected. Feel this positive energy through your entire body. With your slow exhales, release any negative thoughts about past decisions, experiences, any past concerns or disruptions. In this moment, acknowledge yourself just as you are. In this moment, you are authentic with yourself and with others. I'm going to count down from 5 to 1, And as I count down, your breathing will begin to deepen. Your body will begin to relax. All outside noise, chatter will dissolve. 5, breathe deeply, peace in your core. 4, breathing out, trusting your inner worthiness. 3, deep breath. Feel your body, know your worth. You've always been valuable. 1, I am enough. I've always been enough. Take another deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in. Know you are enough. And exhale. Deep breath in and breathe in your new possibility and opportunity. Exhale anything that might get in your way. One last deep breath in and out. You can go back to your normal breathing. Slowly bring your attention back to your body. Wiggle fingers and toes. Wiggle in your seat. Make any adjustments to kind of wake your body up. And I hope, especially after that little conversation today, talking about self love, that you all really took a chance to breathe in, knowing you're worthy, knowing you're valuable, right? So we appreciate, yeah, everyone. Again, that was your first kind of homework, right? Was to leave here today, do something for
Hmm.
self love. So we appreciate everyone for taking that time and doing that breath work with us.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you leading that. I feel so
Absolutely.
relaxed already. Great way to start my Friday. So,
Yes.
just thank you for everyone who took the time for themselves and joined us in this important discussion on self love. We will have more great conversations to come and a few guest speakers throughout the rest of this month. So, we hope you will join us for our next conversation.